They forgot me. On Thanksgiving. The one day built to make people feel seen. You ever stand in your own kitchen and feel like a ghost? What does a woman owe to a family that eats without her? How long can silence stay loyal before it screams? If dignity costs love, is it still worth the price? I stared at my phone. Group chat silent. Not even a running late. Just photo. Ruth's roast glistening on my brother's story. My mother's apron tied like armor. No one remembered me, or maybe they did and chose not to. So I lit the oven anyway. I decided if they left me out of their table, I'd build one I'd never forget. There's something about being left behind that rearranges your insides. You can taste it, that metallic afterburn of being unnecessary. I didn't cry. I opened the pantry instead. I touched every jar, every spice. It was like shaking hands with my own ghosts. I used to believe that cooking meant love. Now I think it means memory. Every dish remembers who you were when you made it. Maybe tonight, I'd remember me too. When my brother stopped calling, I told myself he was busy. When my mother stopped checking in, I told myself she was tired. You can excuse anything when you're afraid of the truth. But today, the truth feels like a guest who's already at the door. I poured myself a glass of wine and whispered out loud, "Happy Thanksgiving." The words felt foreign, like they belonged to someone luckier. But under the quiet, something small began to stir. Not loneliness, not yet. More like the start of a plan. The next morning, the kitchen smelled like quiet rebellion. The kind that doesn't shout, it simmers. I woke before the city did, brewed coffee, and wrote names in steam on the window. Ruth, Sam, Alex. Then I circled them like recipes that needed revision. If they wouldn't come for me, maybe I'd make something they couldn't resist. Something too tempting to stay mad at. By noon, I knew I couldn't do it alone. Every revolution starts with someone who isn't afraid to get their hands dirty. For me, that was Lena, my neighbor, my occasional wine therapist. The woman who fixed my sink and my mood on the same day last spring. "You want to help me cook something impossible?" I asked. Lena grinned like she'd been waiting for trouble. "What kind of impossible?" "The kind you serve cold," I said. She laughed. "Then let's turn up the heat." Mrs. Calder knocked just before sunset. She always knows when something is cooking, food, or trouble. "You girls making mischief?" she asked. "Maybe a little," I said. "Good," she smiled. "Nothing worse than a quiet kitchen." We cooked until midnight. The kitchen looked like a war zone, but a beautiful one. Between laughter and the occasional curse, something healed in me. I wasn't just cooking revenge anymore. I was cooking proof. Proof that I could still make something worth coming home to. They came early. Of course they did. You can't ignore guilt forever. It shows up even when uninvited. When I heard the knock, my heart did something between a sprint and a prayer. The table was set. Every dish had a memory baked into it. One for each of them. I told myself, don't shake. Don't soften. Just serve. When I opened the door, it wasn't words that arrived first. It was the smell of my mother's perfume. That lavender blend I used to find comforting. Now, it felt like a question I didn't want to answer. She smiled too brightly. "We thought we'd surprise you." I smiled back. "You already did." The air thickened the moment they sat down. Laughter from years ago tried to squeeze in but couldn't find space. Sam cracked a joke about my cooking. Ruth laughed too hard. Alex said nothing. Just kept watching me like they were trying to remember what we were. Sometimes silence speaks louder than screaming. Halfway through dinner, I brought out the dish I made for Alex, the lemon tart we used to share at 2 a.m., when love was still kind. They looked at it, then at me. "You remembered," they said softly. "I remember everything," I replied. And for the first time, I saw guilt flicker like a small flame behind their eyes. After dessert, it all started to unravel. Ruth asked why I hadn't answered her calls. I told her I never got them. Sam spilled wine. Alex whispered my name like an apology, and I almost forgave them. Almost. But forgiveness isn't something you serve halfway cooked. It needs heat. Silence, after an argument, is its own kind of storm. You can feel the walls hold their breath. I gathered the plates just to have something to do with my hands. Ruth's voice followed me, sharp at first, then trembling. "You could have called," she said. I didn't turn around. "You could have stayed." And just like that, the night stopped pretending. Sam was the first to break. He set his glass down too hard. "Mom, you didn't tell her?" Ruth froze. I turned. "Tell me what?" Her mouth opened, then shut again. Alex looked like they wanted to disappear. I suddenly realized I wasn't the only one who'd been left out of something. It came out in pieces, like broken glass spilling from her hands. They hadn't just forgotten me. They'd planned another dinner. At Alex's new place. With my recipes. Ruth said she didn't want to hurt me. Funny how people say that right after they've already done it. Alex finally spoke. "It was supposed to be easier this way." "Easier for who?" I asked. They flinched. "For all of us," they said quietly. And that was when I realized the dinner wasn't my revenge. It was my mirror. I built it so they could see themselves clearly, but I wasn't ready for what it would reflect back at me. Then something shifted. Not forgiveness, not yet, but fatigue. Ruth stood up first. "I think we should go." Sam followed, awkwardly grabbing his coat. Alex lingered. "You wanted truth," they said. "Now you have it." I nodded. "Yeah," I said. But truth was never the point. After they left, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt heavy, like a room full of ghosts sitting down to finish what the living couldn't. I didn't cry. I stacked plates. I wiped the table. I watched the wax on the last candle curl inward and die. I'd planned every second of this night, but not the part after. The part where revenge ends and reflection begins. There's a strange peace that comes after the noise dies down. Like your body finally accepts the truth your heart kept fighting. I poured wine for no one. Then a knock broke the quiet. Soft, hesitant. The kind of knock from someone who knows what they've done, but came anyway. They didn't apologize, they just said, "You cooked like you were trying to remember us." And I said no. I cooked so I wouldn't forget myself. For once, they didn't argue. We just stood there. Two people who once knew how to love each other, now learning how to mean it. When Alex left, I didn't follow. I sat down again. Let the silence spread its arms around me. I thought about Ruth, about Sam, about the little girl who used to think she had to earn her seat at the table. Then I realized maybe the real plan was never about them showing up. Maybe it was about me not needing them to. It was past midnight when the second knock came. This one wasn't Alex. It was Lena, holding 2 mugs of cocoa and wearing a grin that could melt frost. "Thought you might need a refill," she said. And for the first time all night, I laughed. Not the bitter kind. The alive kind. Maybe Thanksgiving wasn't about who left. Maybe it was about who came back. The cocoa was warm. The kind that coats your throat and makes words easier to swallow. Lena didn't ask what happened. She just looked around, took in the empty plates and the quiet. "You gonna tell me what the hell you did?" she asked. I tried to serve closure, I said. She smirked. "How'd it taste?" "Burnt," I said. But honest. I told her everything. The group chat, the dinner, the plan that turned into a confession. She listened without interrupting, the way only someone who's seen their own fire burn out can. When I was done, she said, You can't eat resentment forever. It'll starve you from the inside, and something inside me cracked, the kind of break that lets light in. Around 2 a.m., I stood up, opened the fridge, and pulled out the leftover pie. Lena raised an eyebrow. You hungry again? No, I said. I'm starting over. I preheated the oven and began to cook. Not for them, not for forgiveness. For me. Or sure fee, and you were. But when the pie was done, I carried it to the table. No plates, no guests. Just 2 forks and quiet laughter. Lena said, "So what's this one called?" I smiled. The recipe for starting over. We ate straight from the dish. It wasn't perfect. That's what made it beautiful. Before she left, Lena looked around the room and said, "You know, you could make this a thing. Next year. Invite whoever's hungry." After she was gone, I stood at the window watching snow bury the city. For the first time, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt available to the next chapter, to the next meal, to whatever comes when you finally stop waiting to be chosen. A year later, the oven hums again. Same walls, same chipped mugs, same morning light. But everything inside them feels reborn. The kitchen no longer smells like regret. It smells like cardamom, rosemary, and peace. I still wake early, still set the table the way my mother taught me. But now, I do it without waiting for anyone to knock. Last Thanksgiving, I cooked to prove I could survive abandonment. Today, I cook because I'm grateful I did. I hum while whisking the gravy. The song's off-key, but it fills the quiet. The world outside is frozen silver, and the city hums in the distance like it's breathing with me. I catch my reflection in the window. Hair unbrushed, face older but lighter, and whisper, "You made it through." And for once, the silence answers back like approval. The first knock comes just after 9. It's Lena, bundled in a puffy jacket, cheeks pink from the cold, arms full of groceries. "Smells like redemption in here," she says, dropping the bags onto the counter. "I'm trying something new," I tell her. New flavor, new tradition. Minutes later, Mrs. Calder appears, her red scarf fluttering like a flag of mischief. She kisses my cheek, unpacks her cookies, and scolds me for not owning a proper teapot. Then, almost like fate heard a cue, 2 young neighbors I've only waved to in the hallway peek through the open door, shy smiles, holding a pie. I wave them in, no hesitation, no second guessing. The apartment that once held silence now swells with overlapping voices, clinking dishes and warmth that climbs the walls like light. The kitchen becomes a choir. Lena chops vegetables with surgical confidence. Mrs. Calder hums old Bollywood tunes. Daniel tries to flip pancakes and fails spectacularly, while Rena catches the pieces mid-air and laughs until she can't breathe. I watch from the corner, wooden spoon in hand, and feel something I haven't in years. Fullness. Not the kind that comes from food, but from noise, motion, belonging. Ruth once told me, "Chaos means family." I never thought I'd miss that chaos, but maybe she was right. Maybe family isn't who forgives you. Maybe it's who makes the mess with you and stays to clean it up. I don't feel the need to check my phone, to wonder where they are, or if they think of me. The ache that used to live in my chest has turned into something lighter. Not joy exactly, but peace with space for it. By afternoon, the food covers every inch of the table. Lentil stew, rosemary potatoes, Mrs. Calder's famous cookies, the young couple's lopsided pie. We don't pray. We just sit and breathe in the aroma of something earned. Lena raises her glass to leftovers that turn into beginnings. Everyone laughs, clinking mismatched cups. I look around at this patchwork of strangers and realize they've become the answer to the question I didn't know I was asking last year. Who stays when no one has to? The conversation swells. Stories of childhood, of mistakes, of resilience. At one point, Mrs. Calder admits she once burned an entire turkey and blamed the dog. Lena admits she's afraid of getting too close to people. We all nod, because that's what honesty deserves. Space, not judgment. I sit back, close my eyes for a second, and hear my own heartbeat under the laughter. It sounds steady, whole. As evening folds itself into night, I step onto the balcony with a small plate. A piece of pie, a slice of roasted potato, a reminder of what can grow from ashes. Snow drifts softly through the air. The city glows below. Every window another small story of survival. I take a bite, the cold air biting back, and whisper, "Happy Thanksgiving." This time, the words don't ache. They land. Behind me, laughter erupts again. Lena teasing Daniel about his pancake disaster. Mrs. Calder pretending offense. I let it wrap around me like music from another life. I used to think family was something you were born into. Now I know it's something you cook, piece by piece, with whoever's hungry enough to join you. I close my eyes, taste cinnamon and snow, and smile. Not because everything's perfect, but because I finally stopped waiting for permission to feel full.